Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and every week I take a look at the real estate market here in the Villages. If you want to know what's happening, this is the show for you. I'm not going to go into very much detail as to what the Villages offers, but essentially it's like living in a resort or on a cruise ship 365 days of the year. We have live music at four town squares every night of the year. In addition, at those town squares, you'll find other entertainment and shopping and dining. The Villages also has more than 3,000 social clubs, so no matter what your interest, you'll find other people who share them. I've divided the Villages into four geographic areas. The Villages has been growing south for the last 40 or 50 years. The older area is the north, and the newer area is in the south. There is a difference between them, both in terms of activity and in how much properties cost, both on an absolute and per foot basis. A couple of things to note: the Villages has two real estate marketplaces, the VLS and the MLS. The VLS is a real estate market maintained by the Villages. It's the only marketplace on which you'll find new homes, but if you are looking for a pre-owned home, you'll need to have a representative who can show you MLS properties and VLS properties. Without seeing both, you will not be seeing about half of the properties available for sale. The other point is that this show is produced every Monday. Make sure you check the date to ensure that you're getting the most recent information. We're going to take an in-depth look at the Villages. We're going to look at price per square foot. We're going to take a look at long-term charts and short-term charts, and you'll have a pretty good sense as to what's happening. So with that out of the way, let's get started. We start every week by taking a look at financing costs for real estate. You can see that interest rates have been falling for the last several weeks, but I would caution you that part of the reason for today's decrease in rates is because the Dow was down almost 900 points at the close. Usually, when money leaves the stock market, it goes into bonds. Bond prices going up means that interest rates will come down. So the fact that rates are falling is not necessarily a positive in this environment. I'm just going to orient you briefly. We're going to zoom in on the Villages, Florida. You'll get a sense of where it is. On the maps you're looking at, each property is an active listing on the MLS. The size of the circle denotes the size of the property, and the color denotes its price per square foot. The lighter the circle, the more expensive per square foot, and the darker, the less per square foot. We're going to divide the Villages into four regions, which I'll describe to you shortly, and you'll get some sense as to how price per square foot varies between them. We'll start with all listings, which this week number 669. The increase in inventory here seems relentless. As you look at this rise in homes available for sale here in the Villages, one can't escape the conclusion that sellers have not accepted the reality that prices might need to come down for these listings to clear. If you find the information valuable, please consider liking the video, or even better, subscribing to the channel. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Yeah, we're looking at the median time on the market for all MLS listings this week, which is 55 days, small increase from last week. Previously, you can see that as the year progressed through April or so, the time on the market drifted down to under 40 days. We're holding above 50 days. Previously, that was a peak. Let's hope that it doesn't become the floor. This is the median price per square foot for all current MLS listings. This is a new low at $255.10 a square foot. Seems unlikely that 255 is going to hold. I'm going to zoom in on this graph and show you what the trend has been over the last year. My first thought is that the recent decrease in price per square foot seems to be accelerating. Certainly seems to be a more dramatic downturn than the long-term chart indicates. If you're a buyer and you're trying to find a good deal here, or a seller and you're trying to maximize your return, please reach out to me at either DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. There's a great deal difference between availability, activity, price per square foot, and prices between the different regions of the Villages. And to help break this down for you, I've divided the Villages into four geographic areas. The first I'm calling the North. This is the area between 42 and 466. This week, 288 active listings in the North. Last week, 275. The next is the area I'm calling the Mid-North. This is everything between 466 and 466A, commonly referred to here as between the sixes. This week, 181 active listings. Last week, 178. The third area is the area I'm calling the Mid-South. This is everything south of 466A and north of Highway 44. This week, 102 active listings. Last week, there were 101. And the fourth area is the area I'm calling the South. This is the newest part of the villages, the only area showing a decrease in the number of active listings. Last week, 98 active listings. This week, 94. Before we get into the differences, let's look at the villages as a whole. This week, 665 active listings. Sizes of homes available for sale range from 672 square feet to 3620 with a median of 1527. Prices range from 135,000 to just under 1,550,000, with the median 380,000. And on a per foot basis, you can buy a home in the villages for between 104 and $556 a square foot, with 255 a square foot being the median. I will point out that no matter how much you pay for a home here, whether you buy a high-priced home or the least expensive home, you are entitled to full use of all the village's amenities. Here we take a bit of a deep dive into the differences between the different regions of the villages. You can see in the north, 288 active listings, in the south, 94. Sizes of properties available on the MLS in the north range from 672 square feet to 3,087 square feet. In the south, from 828 to 2837. Prices in the north range from 135,000 to 1,000,001. In the south, from 239,000 to 1,000,004. And on a per foot basis, in the north, prices range from 104 to 491, and in the south from 199 to $513 a foot. It is interesting to note that as you move from the north to the south, the number of listings available for sale does decrease. If you're willing to consider an older home, you definitely will have more to choose from. We're going to focus on listings for just a little longer before we move on to sales and pending. This week, the median MLS list price is $255.10 a foot, but I've broken the villages down into price buckets so that you can get some sense of how price per square foot varies between them. The higher the price bucket, generally the more expensive per square foot. So, for example, the least expensive homes, those under 200,000, you can buy for as low as $104 a foot or as much as $229 a foot, with $168 a foot being the median. And there are 12 homes for sale in that price range. The most active price range, the $200,000 to $400,000 price range, $148 a foot to $344 a foot, with $243 being the median, and there are 379 homes available for sale. We're always looking for new interesting data, and here we're looking at the age of the home available in each of the regions. You can see that 49 homes were built in 2003. In the north, you can see that there really wasn't any new construction after the mid 2000s, whereas in the south, there really wasn't any construction before 2017, at least properties for sale. Looking at these graphs will give you some idea as to the age of the homes available in each of these regions. Now we'll look at what changed over the last week, i.e. how many new listings there were entering the market and how many homes there were going pending, leaving the market. The 4-week average is a negative 16 and a half homes. Looking at this graph, the red line representing new listings and the blue line representing pending home sales, you can see that we've never seen as many new listings in a weekly period as we're seeing currently, and pending home sales are not keeping pace with the increase in listings. It might also be worth mentioning that the number of listings currently is 78% higher than the number of listings for the same week a year ago. This graph is just a summary of the previous graph, showing you the difference between new listings and homes going pending. Zero line represents a market imbalance, as many new listings and homes going pending. We've been below the zero line for most of the last 6 months or so. Those of you who are buyers looking for a deal might find this map illuminating. This is showing you all properties that have been on the MLS for 6 months or longer. This week, they number 75 properties. We'll take a closer look at the homes going pending over the last 7 days. They were on the market a median 26 and a half days. Big improvement from what we saw early in the year, but I would make note that we are in the height of the buying season and sales do seem to be sluggish this year. We'll have to see how this trend develops. Here we look at the median price per square foot for the homes going pending. This is a 4-week average, as is the data point you see of 250.78. We are at the lows. You can see that going back 3 years or so, 250 a foot has usually attracted buyers. Let's hope that we continue to see strength there. Here we look at the change week by week on what percentage the sellers were being forced to offer on homes going pending. A reduction of 5.65% is the median price reduction for the homes going pending last week. Before we discuss homes closing last week, let's take a look at how things are changing in the different regions. You can see North, Middle South, and South how many homes are active, went pending over the last 60 days, or sold in the last 60 days. If the number was an increase from the previous week, it's in green. If it was a decrease from the previous week, it's in red. You can see that the North has by far the most listings, but the number of homes going pending is not that far off in the mid-north, whereas in the south and mid-south, the number of homes going pending is substantially lower, as is the number of homes for sale there. Now we'll look at homes that closed over the last 7 days. The number was 36. The average is still showing an increase, although last week's number was a decrease from the previous week. We are used to seeing the number of sales increase dramatically at this time of year, which I will show you in the following graph. This is the number of sales per week on a week-by-week basis. You can see the number representing the weeks of the year on the x-axis, and you can see the number of sales on the y-axis. 2022 is the dark blue line, the light green line 2023, the red line 24, and the very light blue line 2025. Traditionally, sales have increased for the first 20 weeks or so of the year. We did see a decrease last week from over 40 to just over 30, but hopefully we will continue to see sales increase. If not, the inventory overhang problem here will become a big problem for sellers. The chart showing the median time on the market for the homes closing last week certainly seems to show a relentless increase for at least the last year or so, from almost 20 to triple that number at over 60. Homes closing taking longer and longer to sell is not a positive for prices here. This is the median price per square foot at which homes closed over the last 7 days, 246.50. We are over 245, but with the steady growth in inventory, it's hard to imagine we can get much higher than 255, unless, of course, some very high-priced homes sell here. The other effect that the number of sales has is on the weeks of inventory here in the villages, which obviously with number of sales declining last week is increasing. We're up to over 20 weeks of inventory here in the villages. I'll draw your attention to the fact that the number of times that the villages has had 20 or more weeks of inventory are few and far between in this graph. Before I cover this graph, it's worth mentioning that as of this morning, my MLS showed 128 price reductions over the prior 7 days, and you can see looking at this graph that sellers are becoming more enthusiastic about selling. The percentage of listings that had reduced their asking price from the original asking price was less than 50% just a few weeks ago. We're now headed towards 60. The highest percent that we ever saw was on the 10th of July 2023, with 59.94% of listings having reduced their asking prices. It seems likely that we're going to exceed that in the coming weeks. And this graph is showing a similar story. This is the median price reduction for all MLS listings this week, a 4.81% reduction. I've inverted this chart so that as the graph rises, it means that prices are being reduced at a greater rate. We were under 3.5% at the beginning of the year. We're almost at 5% now. You can see how a 5% price reduction would be a dramatic change from what the villagers has gotten used to. If you're a buyer and you're trying to find a good deal here, please reach out to me, DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Be happy to answer questions you have or research a property you're interested in. Similarly, if you're a seller and you're trying to maximize your return, please reach out to me at DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I will research your property and provide you with comparable sales so that you feel confident that you're going to achieve the highest reasonable sales price for your home. And once again, if you found this information valuable, please consider liking or subscribing to the channel. It really helps us with YouTube. If you have any questions, I look forward to hearing from you and hope I do so. Take care.